The Griffin family is just one big tornado of chaos and destruction. They've torn each other and their things apart so much that their insurance deductible is probably through the roof. But to get a feel of just how high their insurance rates might be, let's look at all the times the family has destroyed their cars, house, and other valued possessions. Starting with the time Peter totaled the car on a road trip and baby not on board just so he could watch a movie.
No way, those guys have a TV in their car!
So Peter gets a little distracted by the small TV in another family's car. So distracted that he literally finds a way to teleport into the other vehicle. I'd be impressed if it didn't lead to one of the scariest crashes I've ever seen. Yeah, I don't think there's any fix in that. At that point, the repairs would probably rival the price of the car, so they're better off just getting another one. We don't know the exact value of their 1975 Ford station wagon, so we'll go on the low end and say they're probably out about $5,000. Not sure how willing their insurance is going to be to throw them some cash after they find out Peter teleported out of the driver's seat.
Hey, Crashy, what are you doing down there?
And this isn't the first time Peter totaled the car, as he also did the same in North by North Quahog when he decided to try reading a comic while driving.
You can't eat all those hamburgers, you stupid fella. Oh, jeez!
So he got lucky the first time, but he made the mistake of coming back to the well one too many times. Hey, if he wasn't supposed to do that, wouldn't the universe have made him crash the first time? Besides, there's never a better time to catch up on reading than when you're piloting a 2-ton killing machine.
You hear me, you ridiculous man? You're— Whoa!
It's very likely a head-on collision with a tree would have insurance deem the vehicle a loss, since the repairs would probably outweigh the total cost of the vehicle. So that's another $5,000 into the toilet. Lois is right to nag Peter, but he's already come this far and he's got to see how this comic book ends.
It's totaled. It's completely totaled, Peter. Oh, this is just terrific. How are we gonna get— Oh my God!
And Peter would total the car yet again in Quagmire's mom, making it burst into flames when he tried to ditch Meg on his own version of a field trip.
Okay, here's the field. Goodbye forever.
And another $5,000 to the pile, potentially more if we want to factor in Peter's hospital bill. But before we worry about that, somebody better check on that tree. Hopefully that thing has life insurance. Losing that tree would be a waste, but losing Peter would probably be a net benefit to the family's finances.
I'm still alive, but I'm badly burned. Come save my life and nurse me back to health.
Just turn around and walk away, Meg. No one's gotta know, and even if they did, no one would probably blame you. But sometimes Peter deliberately tries to crash his car, like in A Shot in the Dark when an electronic speeding signs diagnosis hits a little too close to home. Okay, but seriously, how fast is fat speed? Is that too fast? Too slow? I have no clue, but we do know there's no salvaging that car, so it's gonna cost the family another $5,000 to get themselves a new one. Just use whatever they had set aside for Peter's funeral. It doesn't look like he's gonna be needing an open casket anyway. And this isn't the only time he's purposefully veered his car into danger, as he does the same thing with Cleveland in the car in order to force their wives to become friends in He's Black.
What? Don't die!
Oh, good thing Peter suggested Cleveland not die from this crash, otherwise he would have done it. And Peter didn't even get hurt. So now he's out another $5,000 for his totaled car and probably whatever hospital bills Cleveland will have. Maybe they can resume their mission when Cleveland wakes up from his coma in 10 years.
I'm gonna hate those Griffins forever.
Only my side had airbags.
But sometimes Peter actually manages to keep the damage at a minimum, like in Brian's Got a Brand New Bag when he rear-ends a car because he can't stop roundhouse kicking the steering wheel.
Roadhouse. Roadhouse.
Despite the name, these kicks should not be attempted either on the road or in the house. But thanks to all that nonsense, Peter managed to put a pretty sizable dent in not just his front bumper, but also the bumper of the girl he hit. It'll probably take around $5,000 to fix both cars. Unfortunately, those don't look like the kind of damages a few roundhouse kicks can buff out.
Sorry, I wasn't really looking where I was going.
Probably a little blame on our side, too.
But Peter's car isn't the only car he ends up wrecking in the series, as seen in Baby Got Black when Peter tips over Jerome's car with the sheer force of his weight.
I'm too fat to be in the car by myself.
Are you telling me that Peter's car has extra weights grafted into it to prevent that from happening? Well, good news, Griffins. Your car's value has slightly gone up. Luckily, the car just tipping over isn't enough to really consider it totaled, but Peter will still have to shell out a pretty penny. Assuming both passenger side doors and windows will now need to be replaced, Peter might be looking at another $5,000 in damages that he and his insurance will have to pay to Jerome. And the Griffin family car would be put through the ringer in the episode Road to Rupert, as Peter first totals the car while trying to jump it, and then it gets rear-ended later on when Meg is behind the wheel.
Holy crap, Evil Knievel gloves! I bet I could do a wheelie with these!
So when Peter finds his old stuntman gloves at his yard sale, his first inclination is not to actually do a wheelie, but to try to jump his car over several other cars. He knows shooting for the stars is just a saying, right? Like, he doesn't actually have to get enough airtime to touch the stars.
Peter, you can't drive a car over that. You're gonna get hurt.
Lois, I don't come down to Burger King and tell you how to do your job.
Maybe you should. The next time I get my burger with tomatoes on it after I specifically asked for them off, I will see an inferno that makes Pompeii look like a lit match. And to the surprise of no one, Peter not only manages to total his car, but every other car he tries to jump over. Hey, it's their fault for parking on the street in a neat little row. I don't want to victim blame, but what else was Peter supposed to do?
Wow, this is just like what happened with Matthew Broderick, except no one's dead.
So including his car, Peter pretty much totaled 5 cars. We'll be generous and assume they're all worth around the same price, so let's print Peter's bill here at $25,000. And somehow the family either gets the car fixed or quickly acquires a new one, which Meg is thrust into driving so Peter and his friends can get around while his license is revoked.
Rose, will you stop it? Stop it!
Somehow driving a transport bus full of criminals and psychos sounds less stressful than this. At least the riders of that bus usually have anything that could start a fire stripped away from them.
Hey, Meg, I lit your scalp on fire.
Don't worry, I'll put it out.
Now that she smells like burnt beer, Meg slams on the brakes and immediately gets rear-ended by a guy behind her. Would you believe me if I told you the cars were the least damaged thing to come out of this exchange?
Oh, God, stop!
So this could go one of two ways. Typically when you're rear-ended, the person who struck the front vehicle is usually at fault. But if the authorities believe Meg irresponsibly performed a brake check, it could go in the guy's favor. So for the sake of this video, let's say Meg was at fault, so replacing their bumper, as well as the front bumper and hood of the car that struck them, the family could be looking at upwards of $3,000 in damages. At least you got a few good anger management strikes out of it. But Peter would once again hop behind the wheel and completely wreck his car in mid-stroke, driving that sucker right into a tree.
Lois?
Yeah?
Peter's getting in the car.
And that's the normal reaction most people should have when they see Peter behind the wheel of a vehicle. But in this instance, Peter had suffered a stroke that paralyzed half of his body, so his driving safety score has gone from 0 to the negatives. Peter really needs to end this crusade of tree violence. The hippies will come for him if he doesn't. The car may not have been completely totaled in this instance, but that's still quite a bit of damage he'll have to buff out. Let's settle on a $2,500 repair cost and call it a day. The guy's already been through enough as it is.
Stroke! Stroke! Stop mocking me!
But more often than not, Peter isn't the only one who suffers from his reckless driving, as we can see with a mother and a baby in 3 Acts of God.
7. 6.
Those figures are the number of beers Peter thinks he can have and still safely arrive home. A friendly reminder that if the number is anything higher than 0, you have a high chance of getting arrested. But you know, if you just scrape off that mother and baby from the bumper, it doesn't look like too much damage. Maybe just a few dents and scratches that can be buffed and painted. So for this one, the repair cost should be pretty low, maybe hovering around the $400 range. If those two were nice enough not to get their blood on the bumper, that'd be a big plus. But Peter would do a little more damage to the family car while drunk driving in Friends of Peter G as he barrels straight into a tree once again.
All right, look, let's get some music going on in here. Where's the lullaby channel?
So just so we're crystal clear, there is no right way to drive home drunk. But if you want to know the absolute wrong way to do it, here's the killer combo. Windows rolled up, heat blasting, lullaby radio station cranked. It's the closest you can get to having your head on a pillow in the car other than activating the airbag. Yeah, this is one of those front accidents that probably comes out to be as expensive, if not more than, the value of the car. So we'll go ahead and slap him with another $5,000 repair cost. He can get on that once he gets up and dusts the glass out of his skin. But sometimes Peter doesn't even need to be drunk to crash his car. Sometimes all it takes is his vanity and hubris, like when he crashed his car after becoming super attractive and he's too sexy for his fat.
How strange. Should watch road, but can't look away.
Why must bad things always happen to the most beautiful of us? Peter goes on quite the journey in this accident, smashing into a pole, propelling himself down a cliffside and into a lard factory. With the destruction of the front bumper, the hood, and the windshield, this is probably another case of just buying a new car instead of trying to repair this one. Oh, waiter! Another $5,000 to the pile, please. But every now and then, Peter's able to make it out of an accident without a scratch. But you can't say the same for the family's wall he bulldozes through in high school English.
You may be wondering what I'm doing in a library. Well, I actually drove my car into this rich guy's house, and he locked me in here until the police come.
He wasn't lying either. He torpedoed that thing through the wall. The fact that he walked away with no obvious injuries is pretty impressive, but the car isn't going to walk away so lucky. In fact, it's probably not walking away at all from the looks of it. So yet another $5,000 towards getting a new car.
Seems like he's on something. He's got crazy eyes and keeps screaming, "I don't care."
I don't care!
But people aren't the only ones who suffer from Peter's accidents. Animals have also been on the receiving end of his bad driving, like when Peter hit a deer in Brian Portrait of a Dog.
Yeah, looks like it's just a ding. There's no reason to get the insurance companies involved.
Not what I imagine this scenario looking like, but I'm here for it. I don't know how he managed to hit them head on, but that's a snake move by Peter to try and suggest not going to the insurance companies. It's looking like both cars will need the front bumper and hood repair, so that means Peter and his insurance may be looking at a bill somewhere around $5,000. Don't be a Peter. Don't try to worm your way out of getting the insurance companies involved. As a matter of fact, don't do anything Peter does. I'll save you a lot of trouble.
You could probably just buff that out. I
would really feel better if I got your information.
And Peter would crash the family car multiple times in coma guise, several times through the walls of their house, and another time right into another tree.
He left a note. If Van Halen calls, tell them they rule.
What?
I mean, what else are you supposed to do when you get really into rock music? Those walls are just asking to be smashed. Somehow, the car doesn't look like it got a single scratch on it, but you can't say the same thing about the wall. That's going to be a lot to replace it, especially considering it's a load-bearing wall. Since that's the case, it's possible that repairs to the house could be as high as $10,000.
Peter, I'm not okay with this new Van Halen phase of yours.
Well, better get used to it because Peter's got a lot more wall plowing coming up on his schedule. Somehow, he's even gotten the car to become sentient, ready to Kool-Aid Man smash its way through any wall with just a mere whistle.
Damn it, Peter, I'm sick of this!
Another load-bearing wall, another $10,000 down the drain. To put an end to all this destruction, Lois demands that Peter get rid of that Van Halen CD that started all this. Maybe those psychos from a couple decades ago were right. Maybe rock and roll is evil. In that case, maybe it's a good thing that Peter accidentally smashed his car into a tree to get rid of the evil, just like that priest at the end of The Exorcist. He probably could have thought of a way to get rid of it without sending the family into more debt, but whatever. Another totaled car, another $5,000 into the pot. But Peter isn't the only one wrecking vehicles in the family, as Stewie's done the same in Stewie Goes for a Drive, only this time he crashes Brian's car.
And the whole book is an email to his daughter, who's dead.
So Stewie decides to take Brian's Prius out for a little spin. If you're wondering how Stewie's able to reach the steering wheel and gas at the same time, well, how does Brian? Those two are basically the same height. And just like what would happen if an actual dog drove a car, Stewie shows what happens when a baby gets behind the wheel.
I'm too nervous. They're celebrities. You talk to them.
Luckily for Stewie, these Toyota Priuses are often valued a little less than the family station wagon. The fact that he was even able to drive it home is nothing short of a miracle, but if the car ends up being completely totaled, then that puts the family out somewhere around $3,000. Which means it's time for Stewie to start pulling his weight and get a job already. Once you do that, then you can ruin all the cars you want, like the rest of the family. But Brian's more than capable of damaging his own car with his recklessness, like when he rear-ended Consuela's car and drove away in The Wolf of Wall Street.
What the hell?
Ay, Dios mío.
Oh, great. Course it's one of them.
Isn't it cute to see a dog with no insurance and no income talking crap about a hardworking immigrant? Maybe rein in your racism, Brian. I wouldn't say dogs exactly have the best driving track record.
Oh, you're driving away because you don't have insurance.
This sucks. Fixing the bumper is gonna cost at least $1,000.
Hey, thanks for being on top of the cost so we don't have to calculate it. So we'll take Brian on his word and just assume $1,000 is all it takes to fix the bumper. And really, he should be shaken down for another $1,000 to fix Consuela's bumper too. It's time we get these dogs off our streets. Literal dogs, I should clarify. But Stewie's gonna owe a lot more money than that for the crap he pulled and rode to the North Pole, as not only did he total Brian's car, but he also caused the destruction of several others on an icy road.
Oh, it's a flare gun.
Maybe you should put that back.
I'm just holding it. Is this the trigger?
Of course, Stewie just had to be in the truck towing firewood and rugs. That's a big oopsie that's gonna give every insurance company involved a heart attack and stroke all at once. It's kind of hard to quantify just how many cars were destroyed in this little debacle and how much these vehicles were valued at, but we can comment on what we know for sure. Brian's totaled Prius would probably cost around $3,000, and that semi-truck isn't going to be as cheap. The truck itself could cost up to $120,000, and the trailer could tack on another $45,000 as well. Hope Stewie has his checkbook ready because I don't doubt some funeral expenses are probably going to be in the cards as well.
Oh my God, Stewie, you all right? What the hell happened?
Just some stupid stuff went down.
And it appears that Christmas time is one of the worst times to be Brian's Prius, as the dog ends up causing some serious damage to it by driving into a wooden Christmas manger and Christmas crime.
Ah, son of a...
The spirit and whimsy of the Christmas season really jumped in front of him out of nowhere. Of course, Brian has no idea what that is, so it makes sense why he swerved out of the way. Despite Brian's car still being drivable, I think it's pretty safe to say just buying a new one would be a lot cheaper than replacing the entire exterior of the car. So let's go ahead and throw another $3,000 onto the pile. But for the killing of the wooden baby Jesus, there isn't a price high enough you can put on that. Better start leasing that soul of yours, Brian.
It's like he killed him all over again.
And this isn't the only time Brian's car has felt the wrath of a work of art, as in Pawtucket Pat, Brian literally ripped his car in half after trying to tow away a statue.
All right, let's get this statue out of here.
I guess what makes Prius so eco-friendly is the fact that they seem to be made out of recycled paper. Unfortunately, a little bit of tape and glue isn't going to be enough to cover the repairs, so it looks like another $3,000 need to be shelled out to get Brian back on the road. Might be a while on that, because if Brian didn't have the money to put into this car, he probably isn't going to have it for a new one.
I guess you only paid for driver's side airbags.
And it seems like the more time Brian is off the road, the better, because as we see in Girl Interneted, the dog can't even stay awake long enough to not crash his car. There are a number of reasons a dog shouldn't be driving a car, but I guess I never really took into account the fact that they spend like half the day asleep. I mean, me too, but I know better than to attempt to drive during my allotted nap time. So not only will Brian have to replace his car, another $3,000, it's quite possible he'll be responsible for fixing that SUV that struck them as well, which could come out to be around $3,000 in repairs.
Can't write a history of rap without mentioning Gil Scott-Heron.
But like father like daughter, Meg has also caused some serious damage to the family vehicle, like in Hard-Boiled Meg, where she accidentally crashed into Quagmire's car. Don't worry, that guy in the passenger seat was already dead, so Meg doesn't have to worry about catching an accidental death charge. If only the car had lasted a little longer, she could have used that guy's body to slide right into the HOV lane. But the family car seems pretty much totaled here, so we reckon that's another $5,000, though a price may need to be paid for Quagmire's car as well. It's generally believed that Quagmire's car is a 1957 Chevrolet Bel Air, and that's no cheap car, sometimes ending up around $50,000 on the low end. Meg's lucky Chris stepped in to take the blame. I'm sure Chris has a couple grand laying around somewhere.
Chris, I am very disappointed in you, and you are grounded, and we will talk about this after I kill my best friend.
But Meg would just be along for the ride when Chris ropes her into taking Peter's brand new dirt bike out for a spin and trading places.
What do you say we take him for a spin?
Chris, get off there. You shouldn't be sitting on that.
Relax, Meg. If that thing can hold Peter's weight, it can probably hold Chris's. But I guess most of her fears just stemmed from Chris possibly crashing the dirt bike, which is exactly what he does when he attempts to do a jump.
Chris, you idiot! Look at what you did!
I know! If you're gonna attempt a trick like that, the least you could do is burst into flames if you're not gonna land it. We don't know the exact kind of dirt bike this is, but we do know that it was used, so it's quite possible the value of this bike floated around the $1,500 range if it's more of a beginner bike. Peter may be mad now, but his kids just saved him from the strenuous reality of bike-chafed thighs. But Meg has taken the fall for someone crashing the car before as well, although it wasn't really her decision when her dad crashed the car into a satellite dish and I Never Met the Dead Man.
Dad, watch out!
Seeing Peter kill the television signal is like seeing him kill a loved one. In fact, I'm kinda sure he would have traded Meg's life just to keep the TV on. So while he's in mourning, the damage to the car's front bumper and hood doesn't look too bad, and he might be able to get away with $1,500 in damages if he's lucky. A good lesson for a young woman to learn. You'll be paying for your parents' mistakes even long after you're done living under their roof.
She did it.
What? Dad, you were the one driving.
I was teaching her to drive.
But Peter can't be trusted with his own car or his brand new car, like the one in And the Wiener Is, that he ends up destroying after trying to show off.
Enjoy your new car, Mr. Griffin.
Thanks, Jim.
Normally people splurge on a new luxury car when they're going through a midlife crisis. Peter, on the other hand, is going through a crisis of what's inside his pants. So he buys the biggest, longest car he can find, enjoying his new enriched manhood by driving the vehicle in and out of a tunnel. All this could have been avoided if he hadn't had such a weak pullout game. Know when it's time to leave the tunnel, gentlemen. And to make matters worse, he crashed in front of a bunch of supermodels. How's he supposed to enjoy Playboy if he knows that somewhere the models are laughing at him?
Ow, my pride.
So while this is most likely just a fictional car, it does bear a bit of a resemblance to the Mercedes Maybach, which can be valued as high as $240,000. And you know Peter doesn't have the money to just replace it like that. That's small bank energy. And I feel like we would be remiss if we didn't close off the vehicle section by talking about those dang Peter-themed aircrafts he used in the Cleveland Loretta Quagmire, starting with the Peter Copter.
Joe, get inside! The blades are still spinning!
Peter, what is that thing?
Joe, get it!
Tearing up my yard!
It has to be one of the most disastrous maiden voyages for a vehicle in history. Can't really think of many others that even come close. Luckily, the damage doesn't seem to be too bad for the helicopter. Joe's yard is toast, but let's take a look at the aircraft. All Peter might need to do is buy a new set of helicopter blades, which aren't exactly cheap, coming in around $150,000 per blade. And since he'd need two, that's $300,000. Luckily, Peter has a bit more of an economical way to travel, the Hinden Peter.
Oh my god!
Didn't see what happened, but I think Joe's reaction tells us all we need to know. Now we're gonna assume the Hinden Peter is totaled, and if Peter happens to want another single-person Zeppelin, he'd better reach into that pocketbook and be ready to cough up close to $200,000. I would recommend maybe not painting your face on these vehicles if you're gonna keep kamikazing them. And now let's take a look at some of the damage that the Griffins have done to their house and try to figure out how much money they'd have to spend to fix it. Let's start with the episode Meg Stinks, where Brian got sprayed by a skunk and smelled so bad that it drove the cockroaches holding up the house straight out of there.
Oh, that's not good. There was 70% of the structure of this house.
And they say cockroaches are some of the most useless animals in the world. Careful saying that out loud, or they might just leave and cave your ceiling in too. It's hard to say what the extent of the damage might be, but if the roof itself had collapsed in on the house, they could be looking at somewhere around $30,000 in damages. Hopefully their insurance can cover getting a new insect to prop up the house. May I suggest the ever-reliable dung beetle?
Peter, please tell me this is covered by our insurance.
Sorry, Lois. It doesn't cover acts of dog.
And you should always remember to unplug your appliances before leaving for a trip, especially if one of those appliances happens to be a weed whacker like an Intifat Air.
Lois, this is probably a terrible time to remember this, but I think I might have left the weed whacker on.
Okay, honest mistake maybe, but why were you weed whacking the living room? Or did the weed whacker just let itself in and make itself at home? Well, regardless, you're looking at a pretty hefty remodeling of the entire room now. The couch and armchair are fairly old, but for a matching set, the family still might have to shell out around $600. Replacing their TV might be a tad trickier since it's most likely not a smart TV, and those can be hard to find through retailers nowadays. But if they're willing to go secondhand, they might find one for as low as $100. The TV stand is small, so it may cost around $50, and the circular rug may be around the same price at $50. Now for the repairs, replacing the carpet that's now been ripped up will probably cost around $2,000 on average. If they decide to just patch the parts of the wall that were damaged rather than outright replacing the whole thing, they could still be out around $1,600. Fixing the ceiling would cost around $1,200, and replacing that smashed window could cost around $600. Let this be a lesson to all of you the next time you decide to let your lawn care devices house sit for you. But the exterior of the Griffin house seems to get just as much destruction directed towards it, like in Old World Harm, where Peter's makeshift jetpack goes haywire.
I saw a thing, and now I want to do the thing. That's my thing. Now quit yapping and tape these leaf blowers to my back.
Yeah, I think that pretty much sums up most of Quahog's problems. And in case the combination of falcons, fireworks, and leaf blowers didn't make it clear, Peter's jetpacking does not work. Unless, of course, his goal is to spit in the face of the neighborhood's HOA, which he does with flying colors.
Peter, what the hell?
I guess the car wasn't out of the woods just yet. A smashed taillight and bumper might cost around $500 to fix, but the front lawn is going to require a lot more love and care. If they want to reseed and sow the lawn, they could be looking at a price range hovering around $4,000, while a new mailbox will probably cost around $50. The window could cost around $600 to replace, while the shutter could cost around $100 to replace. Fixing the paneling on the exterior of the house Peter damaged could cost around $200, while that hole in the roof could cost around $1,500 to repair. And that's not even including all the damage that jetpack did inside the house, but hey, out of sight, out of mind.
Just take this opportunity to learn and grow.
I will, Balloon.
He won't. And this next instance from Peter's daughter isn't technically anyone's fault, but the flooding of the Griffin house is just too iconic not to talk about.
Oh my god!
I know, about the water, right?
Floods are a scary thing, so scary they have their own insurance to cover the damages. But do these guys look like a family that has flood insurance? Volcano insurance, sure, but probably not flood insurance. This can be a tricky one to price considering we don't know the full square footage of the house, but if we assume the living room, kitchen, dining room, den, and basement are all affected, draining of the house, the removal of mold, and the eventual rebuilding of the affected rooms could be upwards of $75,000 to fully repair. So yeah, get that flood insurance. But don't skimp on that volcano insurance because you really never know when you'll need it.
But Dad!
And for God's sake, do not be afraid to make me a sandwich while you're in there.
But Peter has been responsible for flooding the house, like in Peter Schmidt Manor, and honestly, he's capable of doing a lot more damage than the forces of nature, it seems.
Uh-oh.
Stand back. The pitching machine is the only plumber we'll need.
It really can do it all. Plumbing, electrical work, babysitting, open heart surgery. And they want to waste these wonder machines on baseball? So the flooding seems to affect the entire house, causing water damage to the inside while absolutely demolishing the house's exterior, smashing windows and creating holes in the walls. It's unclear just how much was damaged or if the house would just need to be completely demolished at this point, but a Class 4 catastrophic event could cost upwards of $300,000 to replace. But not to worry. A little known fact about pitching machines is that they also make great insurance lawyers.
And I'm waking up outside again. Gotta sleep to grow, guys. Gotta sleep to grow.
And Stewie's completely wrecked the house with a different element when his flamethrower caused the entire house to burn up and absolutely babulous.
You won't make a fool of me any longer!
Hey, maybe if you put a little more effort into his extracurriculars as he does into his weapons, he would have won a little more than participation trophies. Just a thought. This is another one that's a bit tricky to price out, considering we don't know the full extent of the fire's damage, along with the damage caused by intense heat, toxic smoke and soot, and the compounded water damage caused by the fire department's hoses. If the fire absolutely decimated the structural integrity of the house, the Griffins could be looking at a cleanup bill upwards of $300,000. Honestly, it's clear this house has been cursed with bad luck. You dig up one ancient burial ground and suddenly the universe tries to teach you a lesson.
Oh, here comes the insurance guy. Everyone start crying about losing your new golf clubs and Grant Wood's American Gothic.
But sometimes completely destroying your house is somewhat justified, like in Pal Stewie when an SNL bit is just so funny that there's no other acceptable reaction than to just go hog wild.
How is this happening?
Yeah, I get it. I had the same reaction the first time I saw the Van Down by the River sketch. Remember when SNL used to be considered a lethal weapon and not just a late-night obligation? Anyway, the Griffins go around the living room and wreck all their belongings, so let's try to find ballpark estimates on how much all that costs. A lamp like that seems pretty cheap, maybe 15 bucks at most. Same with the ceramic flower vase, probably coming in around 15 bucks as well. Those small framed pictures could come out to be 20 bucks each, while those 3 framed family pictures might only cost about 30 bucks for all of them. 2 side tables get smashed, which would probably be about 20 bucks each to replace, while that hole in the wall Peter made will be a bit more pricey at $400. As Peter smashes an older style of speaker that may only cost 20 bucks to replace, Meg joins the fun and sets the couch on fire, putting them back another $300 or so. Mass psychosis really is a family affair. But then Brian's massive hole in the wall adds roughly another $900 onto the pile, along with another $300 for the Prius windshield Brian just flew through. And now that the TV is shattered and the stand is broken, they'll need about $150 to replace that. You thought it was over? The psychosis has now reached beyond the family. Quagmire then crashes an entire plane through the roof, which could cost as much as $10,000 to fix. It's been a while since SNL has done something house-destroying funny, and for everyone's wallets, maybe that's the way it should stay.
I was watching upstairs on Hulu!
I saw it on my phone!
My plane has Wi-Fi!
And the whole family would get into destroying the house when a massive inter-family fight breaks out in Lethal Weapons.
You can't hit me, I'm a girl!
Sometimes I wonder.
This is just how some families resolve their differences. If you're gonna pass judgment, just make sure you do it far away from their fists. So the first casualty in this scuffle is their stereo system, and while we don't know the exact model, 80s stereo systems tend to float around $200. Lois then flings a family photo at Peter, which probably only costs about 10 bucks for the frame. The lamp and flower vase by the stairs get destroyed, probably costing around 15 bucks each, and the stair railings Peter demolishes would probably cost somewhere around $500 to completely replace. Peter gets kicked through a window, adding $600 to the damages, and Lois smashes a large framed painting over Peter's head, which may cost $50. See, now that they've got all that out of their systems, things can go back to normal and they can assess the damage. After we factor in that wooden chair, which might be like 30 bucks. But after they've tasted each other's blood, they're finally ready to calm down. I feel like the same result can be achieved without going hundreds of dollars in debt, but who am I to judge? But sometimes the destruction of the living room doesn't come from joy, but from rage, evident by Peter's feral attack on the space in Guy Robot when he couldn't wait for his show.
We'll be right back with more Laverne and Shirley.
But I want it now!
Sorry, Peter, but this isn't J.G. Wentworth. Good things come to those who wait, and bad things come to those who'd rather draw blood instead of wait. So Peter destroys a $100 TV, a $25 framed landscape painting, a $50 TV stand, a $600 window, a $25 set of window curtains, a $20 side table, and 2 framed pictures that may be around $20 each. It's the holes in the walls that are really going to get him, as the size and severity of them might cost up to $1,000 to fix. Isn't it funny how we used to watch commercials all the time, but now if an ad break runs longer than 30 seconds, we're ready to kill? But sometimes the house itself is turned into a weapon of destruction, as Peter once transformed the entire building into one big hot air balloon in Tales of a Third Grade Nothing.
And away we go.
Well, this'll probably be a first for the insurance agency. This got me Googling whether or not a house can be fixed after it's been removed from the ground, and it turns out it can. If you factor in the building of a new foundation for the house, as well as the rehabilitation and rebuilding of the inside that got ripped apart, the cost could climb up to and may even exceed $400,000. But it's not just Peter's house that's going to need repairs.
No, 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 no!
With structural repairs and a full remodeling of the bathroom needed, the cost to fix Cleveland's house could float around the $40,000 range. And this has happened to Cleveland like, what, 10 times? This guy should be swimming in lawsuit money by now. If only he weren't such a good friend to Peter. But sometimes the destruction of the house is used for the purpose of creating something, like Peter's Men Club, seen in Believe It or Not, Joe's Walking on Air.
It took 6 weeks and cost $8,000, but it was worth it.
What a steal. Actually, it was literally a steal, considering Peter took a whole chunk out of the side of the house to build it. That's fine, Stewie doesn't need a completely walled room anyway. Being exposed to the elements builds character.
What is this? There's something wrong with the house! I don't like change!
Well, I hope Peter plans on making some money from this new men's club, because to fix a hole of that size on a load-bearing wall, he'd better be ready to shell out up to $5,000 for any needed supports, frames, and studs. I guess if he had to steal from any of the bedrooms, Stewie's was the right way to go. The public eye doesn't need to peer into the horrors that go on in Chris and Meg's bedrooms. But Peter hoped he could make some money by knocking down walls in Family Cat, though he probably should have found a different place to give it a whirl than his own house.
We got our doors and big hammers. Now it's time for my favorite part of every job. The demo.
To be fair, giving Peter a job that just involves swinging a big sledgehammer at things is probably the best way to put his destructive tendencies to good use. But putting in a fresh new hole in the house kinda just feels like old habits refusing to die.
What the hell are you doing, Peter?
5 front doors, Lois.
Damn it! Did you stop taking your OCD meds?
Well, door or no door, that wall isn't exactly gonna be cheap to patch up. If they're lucky enough to not get rid of the entire wall, they could still be out $500 to repair and insulate that big hole. Someone should really look into insulating that big hole that is obviously in Peter's brain. But Peter's creativity would continue to extend to his misuse of the house, like with the time in Damn It Janet, where he turned the house into a talking puppet.
Nobody better come in here. I'm the Griffin's house.
I mean, you kind of have to be impressed with the fact that he was able to detach the entire second floor from the house and find a way to move it without destroying everything. There's some ingenuity to his madness if you just look deep enough. But let's say that they'd, I don't know, eventually want to use the top floor of their house again. Well, it might be more costly than you think. Factoring in stabilization, structural engineering, framing, and repairing any walls that were damaged, this could turn out to be a $50,000 project. But if Peter can convince the townsfolk to give the house some money so they don't get eaten, he might actually be able to fund this fix rather easily.
Bring me a tool shed, or I am hungry.
And we're not sure if adding on to the house can also count as destroying it, but take one look at the crapshoot of a job Peter did in A Fistful of Meg, turning the house into a castle, and tell me that isn't the case.
State your business.
Peter, will you please put down the drawbridge? I got a car full of groceries.
I've seen sandcastles with more structural integrity than whatever nonsense Peter has going on here. I guess it's fairly impressive, but in the very likely scenario Lois makes him take it all down, he could run into some issues removing the cement from the roof, costing somewhere around $1,000, and potentially more to remove the concrete. And replacing the front door when the drawbridge gets removed is no cheap project either, easily costing close to $1,000 and potentially more if they're unlucky. A king should never have to worry about these things. These are peasants' worries, and Peter shouldn't have any of that.
I also went to the video store and got Garfield, A Tale of Two Kitties.
And honestly, all construction tools probably need to be kept away from Peter's hands, as evidenced by his hijinks with the chainsaw in Boys and Squirrels.
I want a chainsaw!
Oh, okay, because I wasn't really sure considering how subtle you're being about it. Luckily for them, Peter only cut a little hole in the door, which means they might be able to get away with a simple repair instead of a full-on replacement, which could come in as low as $150. But you know the rules of a chainsaw. When you get one, you've got to use it for everything.
Mom, Stewie needs his sausage cut and his butter spread.
Yeah, let me get that for you, buddy.
Gotta get your money's worth for it, I suppose. Luckily, a DIY fix of the table can be as cheap as $20 if the cut is shallow enough and you know the right tools for the job. They're just gonna throw a tablecloth on top of it anyway, so who cares? As for the high chair, that might actually end up being even more expensive, as wooden high chairs can sometimes go for $100 or more. Sounds like it's time to hop on the plastic train. It's about time their bodies got a little bit of microplastics in them if they haven't already. Alright, time to whip out the industrial grade calculator and see what the total damages are. This is just an educated assumption, but by our calculations, the Griffins have done upwards of $2.3 million in damages to their property and vehicles. That deductible must be worth a small island nation. But what's your favorite moment of Family Guy destruction? Be sure to let us know down in the comments, and if you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like and hit the subscribe button if you haven't already.